back to unleashing. I just woke up a little bit ago and still sitting here sipping some coffee. It's still pretty early in the morning. My mind's kind of been going since last night, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make a video, but maybe I will. I'm just going to throw some things out there, and perhaps this will be a coffee and deep conversation. But last night I got a message on the YouTube, and somebody was talking about dates and numbers and things like that, which I don't have a problem with, and I usually go over that stuff. And if somebody's mentioning 1260 and 1260, the lengths of time of the tribulation spoken of in Daniel, some specific timelines, and they're putting it on feast days, especially fall ones, not false ones, my bad, and things like that, because those need to be fulfilled. I'll definitely take a look at it for sure, and they had some ideas and things like that they're throwing out, and I was just kind of looking over it and everything like that. And in the process of doing that, something came to my mind that either I was overlooking or purposely overlooking, but I'm going to talk about it right now, all right? Of course, all of this, is lining up with, is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? And of course, the biggest fear is that it's not, right? Because none of us want to, anybody who's looking for God doesn't want any of this nonsense to go on much longer, because it's only getting worse. It's getting worse fast. And so, I'm just running scenarios, which I can do extremely fast in my head, different things like that, and coming to conclusions, stuff like that. But there's something that I want to bring out right now that I haven't said before. In the 73-year idea, all right, the idea is if the tribulation falls within the 80-year period, which we hope that it does, all right, because if it does, the 7-year tribulation within the 80 years, it means that once you get to 73 years, if Israel, the fig nation, is counted from 1948, all right, May 14th, then the rapture would happen before that, because the tribulation is going to be happening within that year, so that it lines up and doesn't go past the 80-year mark, all right? Now, if the tribulation isn't inclusive in that and it goes outside of it, that's a bad thing, because then that can open up the window. If the 70-80-year generation is counted for all those things being fulfilled that Jesus spoke of, having the rapture happen sometime between now and 7 more years, up to the possibility of 2028, because the tribulation, its 7-year time period, won't even be counted as part of that. That's something we don't want, right? For good reasons. It would mean that the length of time is further, okay? So we hope and pray that it's inclusive, counted in, and it'll wrap up, okay? Well, here's kind of the bad thing about that. If you're going off the 1948 date, May 14th, and it's exactly to the day, since the tribulation starts in fall, it's not spring because it wraps up in the fall, we're already outside that timeline for this year. Because even if the rapture were to happen sometime this spring, the tribulation would still be outside of that when it started. It would roll back around, and then from the 80-year count up in 2028, it would roll past May 14th, 2028. So we're already outside that window. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me, because that right there will open up the possibility that the rapture might not happen this year, and we still might have 7 more years of an opening window of when it could take place. All right, that's the bad news. The good news is I don't think that's going to happen at all. And there's some reasons why, all right? Not to mention the speed of things that they're going, but of course, this is me playing different ideas back and forth in my head. All right, and the reason why is that because of the Agenda 2030 thing and what they're planning to do and how many people are going to kill off, by the time you even get much later into the 2000s, there's going to be so much die-off and stuff like that from people that we're going to already be in tribulation events, so I don't give it that long, all right? Of course, on the other hand, I'm looking at everything at prophecy. No matter what, this will lay out when we look back from heaven and what God's word said will be true. So how does that play? His word will be true. Some things are kind of sometimes from a point of view, you know? Like, just as an example, he says, shortly, I'm coming shortly. We're thinking, okay, right this minute. 7 years go up and we're like, how short is this? What's going on here? Of course, in heaven, when you look at the comparison of eternity, 7 years is like the smallest blip of all time. So is it still true? Yes, it is from that point of view, okay? So in looking at things like that, yeah, absolutely. And we will be able to look back and it all be fulfilled that way. So I try to keep that in mind as well. All right. Another thing is around 2025, supposedly the elites from the inside want to have Satan on his throne, all right, in Israel and everything like that. Knowing that that takes place halfway in the tribulation, when the two witnesses are killed and he goes in and does the abomination of desolation, that would mean the 3.5 years, all right, would start, and for that to line up in 2025 like they wanted, would start this fall in 2021, which is exactly in the timeline area we look at, all right? 2022, 23, 24, and then you're going half of a year from fall, which pushes into 2025 in spring around Passover, okay? So that lines up. And that's a good thing. That's what we want. For those that are looking for the rapture, of course. All right, and I'm just going to stop saying that because we are looking for the rapture. If you're listening to this, you're looking for the rapture. All right? So that gives it a real possibility. Another thing, all right? The Pope's age. I can't emphasize this enough. The Pope is the false prophet. All right? From the very third video that I did 4 years ago now, at least in March it will be, emphasizing the Roman Catholic Church was never started by Peter. Peter never went to Rome. In fact, they found Peter's body married with Martha and Mary in the tombs. Simon Bar Jonah. In Israel, the Roman Catholic Church had found this and kept it under wraps, right, back in 1950s or so. They know that he never went up there. This brings into the point who actually did start the Roman Catholic Church. And if you know about the debauchery that was involved in the first, 500 years of it before they cleaned it up, it wasn't started by anything good, all right? It was totally pagan and still has its roots in that. It was founded by who I believe is Simon the Magus, all right, from Acts chapter 8, the magician, who took some of the police from that along with his Babylonian sorcerer. He went back up and became sorcerer to Nero, where he founded it, all right? This is why Paul speaks of not being able to see anybody but Luke. Peter was never up there. And according to the Roman Catholic Church, Peter should have already been there 2 years before that, starting the Roman Catholic Church. It's because he never did. It wasn't happening. It was an abomination, all right? Knowing this, that means when Martin Luther broke off from the Roman Catholic Church and started all the Protestant movements in the churches we have nowadays, all right, and stemmed it along the same lines as the Roman Catholic Church, just added that we could read the Bible and other things like that, means that our very own churches have roots of what was started in falsehood right from the start. All right, that's why I have some of the reasons why I have a problem with church. All right, the church building, it was never what it was intended to be. The called out ones, the different groups of people, and even though people are saved in it, it's why the difference. So when you listen to me or somebody that's been going to church for a long time, they don't have that power. Where does that power come from? What the church robs you of, the personal walk with Jesus that you can have. All right, going to church and sitting there. And I'm not going to get off on this too far, but going to church and sitting there is the same as going to the gym and watching somebody work out and wondering why you're not getting stronger compared to somebody that's going and lifting weights themselves, and over time they're getting jacked, okay? For those that work out, you'll understand this reference, all right? It's the difference of the personal relationship, the walk that creates, all right? Throw a few more things in there. If you can be selfless and you can have no price, you can also be granted abilities. Abilities won't be given to you if you have a price, because if it pulls you away later, God's not going to give it to you if it ruins you later on in time. All right? You can be given real gifts, all right? The church doesn't have these gifts, which is why they dance around on roll on the floor saying they're speaking in tongues and other things like that, because they're trying to play the part, but they wonder why they don't have it. And this is why preachers and things like that look back to the older generation that might have been walking with Jesus more closely, and they can see that they had real gifts, and they wonder why they don't have them now. It's the reason why is they've been robbed from it, from falsehoods and making money and things like that, all right? I already know this stuff, all right? There's a reason why I don't do any sort of money making or any thing like that. All right, there's a very important reason for it. I'll actually be robbing myself. Okay, and I know this, so I stay away from it. All right, that's just a little history lesson on the church building. All right, can you still be saved? Absolutely. All right, but you'll never have the power, the potential that you have from walking with God. All right. Little backstory. Anyways, back to the Roman Catholic Church. It was founded. The word Catholic means universal. Right from the beginning, it was founded in evil. It was founded in darkness, and Satan knew he was going to use it as for the false prophet and stuff like that. Right? The Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, is the false prophet that works with the Antichrist. If you know anything about the Malachy prophecy, which I've spoken of lots of times, St. Malachi, on his way to Rome to go visit the Pope at the time, was struck down by a vision where he saw 112 popes into the future. Saw their coat of arms and different things that they would do. He wrote them down, and he showed it to them, where they kept it a secret for 500 years or so, or until the 1500s when it was found again, and then they brought it back out. Shows the 112th Pope would be the last one, Rome would burn, and Jesus would judge, the great judge would judge. Alright? Speaking of Judgment Day and everything like that, alright? And because of that, this Pope that we have is the 112th. The Roman Catholics know that. They've been keeping a hold of the prophecy the whole time, and they put in the first Jesuit Pope, which is what I believe the foundations of actually the Illuminati that goes way back further than 1776, okay? And is rooted in it, all right from the start. So knowing that and looking at Revelation 19, the false prophet and the Antichrist, when we come back with Jesus after the 7 years, are tossed in a lake of fire, and it specifically says alive. They have not died first, not brought back to life and then thrown in. They're alive. He has not died of old age or anything like that. Knowing that in the age that he's at, I've been expecting it now for quite some time. So looking at that, if we were to push this off because of the tribulation now being completely inclusive inside the 70 or 80 year mark, I wouldn't push the start of the rapture happening or the start of the tribulation happening up into later times of the 2000s. Let's say 26 or 28 or 27 or anything like that. I'd be putting it more at a closer age, more at a closer time. And the reason why is because of that stinking age he has. He's getting up to the point where when you add 7 years that he makes it through the length of the tribulation, he's really pushing the boundaries of it. And I just don't see it going on much further. Of course, this is all stuff that's just running through my head, like in, seconds at a time. I'm just thinking about all different things, right? Another thing is that people that have talked to God recently, the one that died in 2015, the fireman, it was very interesting. And I'm not talking about that idiot Mark Taylor. I'm talking about another guy that actually was taken up there, saw God, and he sent him back, and he warned him, tell him, I'm coming soon. They believe it. He's like, no, they don't. Tell them I'm coming soon. He's like, God, we're listening. No, tell them I'm coming soon. And he re-interviewed in like 2018 or so. And he said that he'd already expected it, but he was asked by the interviewer how much further he thought if it could go into like 2021 or 22. And the guy specifically said if it went past 2021, he would be absolutely shocked because of the urgency that he was told by Jesus on the soonness he's coming. It had already gone further than he was expecting. But he said he would be in absolute shock, right? I've been told as well as others, that it's soon. I was told that in 2017. And in 2019, on September 13th, I was told almost time, all right? It's getting down to the wire. So do I see it pushing that far out, along with the stuff, like I say, that they have planned and what they're going to do? Nothing gets thrown out. That's the most important part. Nothing gets thrown out. So the people going about daily business like the time of Noah, we're about to break through that barrier where it's not going to be like that right now. There is still people getting married and thinking things are going back to normal. They'll just get married with double, triple mass on nonsense. And, but that's about to come to a screeching halt. And because of that, I don't push this into the later times. Now, on more of another note, because like I say, from a point of view, can it still line up? If you look at 2021 as a shell, an outside parameter, all right, all the way to the end of it, and the 70 years, all right, the 70, 80-year line, we could come to the 73-year mark, May 14th, all right? Still mark it. The rapture happens sometime around then or in spring or a little bit after on Pentecost or something like that, right? The summer happens, Gog and Magog happens, we go into fall, the tribulation starts. Even though it's past the 73-year mark, it's still within that year timeline as an outside shell. So from a point of view, like I was speaking of earlier, looking back in prophecy, it will still be kept to the word. He really did come back at the time. The generation did see that, and it is all fulfilled within that year of a timeline, all right? Maybe not to the exact day. Where other things are spoken of to the exact day, like 1,260 days. Where other things fall more into that line of, can it float a little bit, like in the shell idea, where it says a time's time, time and a half. That's not an exact number, and it gives the possibility of being within a year time. Well, time's time, time and a half, yeah, it means somewhere within a 3.5 year mark, okay? Not being exactly to the day, where when speaking of a specific time, the length of the two witnesses, Israel fleeing into the wilderness from the Antichrist to be saved by God, 1,260 days, those are exact lengths of time, okay? So keeping that in mind, and looking at this from the whole perspective, even though it does go past it, if the tribulation were to start this fall, it technically would still be fulfilled from that certain point of view. So that's just something that I kind of wanted to bring out. Okay, so in summary, all right, even though we're going past the 73-year mark for the tribulation starting, all right, this spring, the whole thing can still play out, all right, where we're not waiting for another length of time that can be within 7 years, all right? And that is because of some of the points that I brought up, not only being told people that he's coming back extremely soon, and now we're in triple like overtime, but the Pope's age, very important for the false prophet, as well as the agenda and them starting it off. They're not doing it slowly, as we can all see, all right? They're not joking around. After they've done this, they cannot take a break from the virus thing, because if time were to stop and things were to cool off and they were to try this again, nobody's going to fall for it again. They've taken it and they're running with it now. They've kick-started what they want to do, the Agenda 2030. This has been the plan. So them telling me that it's starting, or them doing that, it tells me that they're starting it right now and it's not going away. For that reason, I'd say the whole New World Order is about to kick off. This is another thing. Another thing that's interesting, if it was going to be some further length of time and God was going to count it sometime to make maybe the 2030s for it ending or something like that instead of 2028, one of the things that holds against that is for 2,000 years since Jesus, out of all the times that he could have started that, instead of starting in like 1951, Israel becoming a nation, he chose 1948 for that to happen. And that puts this window between 2021 and 2028 wrapping up, all right? He chose that. And it's very interesting. Instead of it running into 2030 or anything like that, which would line up more of when Jesus died, you know, being 2,000 years, he has it lined up in the 20s from 2021 to 2028. And that tells me that there's some unforeseen stuff and maybe some numbers and dates that we don't exactly have, because, I mean, it does come to speculation. We do have times that are written down and things like that, but there's some things that we don't know exactly. We don't know how long Adam and Eve were in the garden, for instance, and is that counted as part of the time for their age? Was there 20 years, some months? How long was it exactly before they ate of the fruit and then death took over and it started that count? We don't exactly know, so there are some things, but God knows, as well as the forces of darkness that were there from the beginning that keep their own record, like I've said before. All right, that's why I don't find it surprising that, like I say, the aliens showed up a few seconds right before the rapture happened. It's like they knew when I saw that in the vision. Okay, but because of this and how it lines up with Israel and everything like that, it doesn't go further. And God picked that time specifically. I find that very interesting and intriguing, and it tells me that this is definitely it. All right, and of course, you know, there is that little bit of fear in there that it will continue on further. Of course, you know, I don't want this to continue on further. I'm starting to get out of here. I'm beyond ready to get out of here. It's unbelievable, but this is just me being honest, you know, and overlooking that point that all already, because the tribulation starts in the fall and ends in the fall, the only way that that wouldn't, where it would still fall in and the tribulation were to somehow start this spring, would be sometime around the fourth trumpet. And the impact from the asteroids or wherever it hit the ocean, stuff like that, literally speeds up the rotation of the planet, shortening it or changing the time enough where it still ends in the fall as well. I don't know if that's going to happen. That would be something completely out of the hands and that I couldn't predict or even talk about until after it happened. And of course, I'd already be gone in the rapture. So this would just be a speculation. But I don't see that exactly happening, all right, to make sense of the fourth trumpet, all right? It's been an idea that's been passed out there before, wondering how 1/3 of the sun, moon, and the stars would not be shown for their light, all right? Could it be time, the shortening of the time or whatever? Possibly, but that would be the only way that I would see it that would. Otherwise than that, it starts in the fall. And that also lines up why it starts in the fall, is at the halfway point of the tribulation, which we know when the Antichrist comes in, puts it around the Passover time, which the Antichrist will come into the temple, which he's going to try and make himself look like the Messiah when he does this whole thing in the temple. And to do that, you reenact it over Passover, which is when Jesus came in. So it's another reason, another point to why it starts in the fall, okay? So knowing that, then the tribulation is already out of the exact timeline of 1948 if the rapture and tribulation start this year. But is there no hope? No, I don't think so at all. I definitely think there still is for this year. And even if it were going to be next year, and I don't want to talk like that, but even if it were, we're still looking at the early points of it. Like I say, you go much further, we're pushing that Pope's age, we're pushing already into the New World Order agenda. They've already started off at record pace. It's taking over with the mask and the vaccine. It's not going back to normal. They're already starting the isolation camps in places, and they're working on coming after other people. Stuff that happens, and it's going to happen in the tribulation and the start of it, okay? So seeing that now, it tells me that it really is early and it's coming. But if anybody stumbled upon this or thought about it or wondered, right, this is my answer to that. And it's kind of me going over some ideas and talking about it in my head and stuff like that. And I didn't even know if I was going to make a video about it, but I might as well just share it or whatever and get it off my chest. So anyways, that's kind of where my mind is on this, and just me talking about it, right? But I absolutely still have hope, and this year is looking extremely promising and on everything, and definitely how close that it is and stuff. And like I say, if you look at 2021 as a shell, a whole, that it encases the spring and the summer within the year and everything like that, it really still will fulfill from a prophetic point of view. After we're looking back from time, from the future, it will all still be played out exactly the same. So even if we go past the date, if it's still within this year, it still fits, it still plays out, it's still exactly how we're looking at. And that's encouraging. That means it still goes down this year. All right, so don't give up. All right, keep looking up. And this is just the latest that I had on my mind, and sipping some coffee here. All right, God bless. I'll catch you next time on the leash, and I'll see you in the air. Bye.